Good grief, friend. Get in here. It's too cold for life out there. Actually, that's not true. Hold on a second. I put up a bunny cam in our bunny's new condo. They went to live outside last night, and I put a camera in there. It's the cutest thing ever. Let me show you. Well, I'm glad you're here today, friend. We're going to continue talking about the TikTok sweater, or I guess the Harry Styles sweater, and then we'll talk about the TikTok sweater. Blocking is the process of washing your knits, your wool knits, and it helps the, what just happened? Oh, the stitches even out, and you can form the shape of your garment. Isn't that right, Jem? 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 I don't think I ever covered the process of blocking, which is super important when you're knitting something with wool. Now, I blocked this sweater once already, but then we had to go back and fix some of the joins, and I added the collar and the wristbands, so I wanted to block it again. And I'll show you how to do that. The first thing you need is a warm bath. This is lanolin soap that is specific for wool garments. You do not want to wash the lanolin off of your wool. That is what keeps it kind of waterproof. So I'm gonna just suds this up here, get the water kind of sudsy, and I can feel the lanolin or oil in this bar. It doesn't take a lot. Now I'm gonna put the entire sweater in here. Make sure it gets covered. When you're washing your knits, you want to be careful not to agitate them. If you agitate your felt or agitate your wool, it will felt. I want to be clear that for acrylic yarns, this doesn't apply. There are superwash wools that you can just throw in the washing machine. This particular wool is Wool of the Andes from Knit Picks, and so I need to be careful not to agitate it, not to stretch it, not to break the fibers in any way, and just be very gentle with it. Okay, here's the tricky part. I'm going to take it out of the water and try not to stretch it as much as possible, but I do want to get the water out of it. And last time I had Jill to help me with this, today she's in bed. So what I'm doing is lifting it up. Let me pull the plug here and just squeezing so the water runs down. I did already lay out some towels in the living room. There's a lot of water coming off of this. This is really heavy. I should weigh this once it's dry. We knit with worsted weight held double. This is supposed to be a chunky yarn. So the sweater's heavy even when it's not wet. Now I'm going to lay it out on this towel that I have here. Again, I don't want to stretch it. Don't want to rub it. Oh, it's upside down. What I want to do is try to lay it out flat so that I can wring it out a little bit with the towel. So, because it's still very wet. The button band had been flipping out, and this blocking process will stop that. Basically, I get to tell the sweater how I want it to lay and what I want it to look like. And because wool has a memory, it will stay the way I put it as it dries. Knitting is very forgiving. I would say more forgiving than sewing. It's a great craft for new people because, like I said, especially if you're knitting with wool, it's very forgiving. You can tell the wool what you want it to do. And people also aren't as likely to notice any abnormalities. So now that I have it all laid out, I'm just going to roll it up and try to squeeze some of the water out. It's so heavy and so wet. I've squeezed out a lot of water, but now I'm going to put it down on another towel and put another towel on top of that and squeeze that out as well. Here's our sweater on the ground on a towel. Let's see if we can keep the puppy off of it. I'm going to put another towel on top. And again, we're not wringing it. We're not stretching it. Okay. This is the system I'm using. It's a baby gate on top of a laundry basket. So this is the part where I get to tell the sweater what I want it to look like. So here I'm telling you that I want the shoulders to be straight across. I want there to definitely be the seam on this side. This is the way I want the arms to be. The seam needs to be here and here. The part I'm most interested in fixing is these button bands. I need to make sure that the button bands line up properly. So any place that seems to be a little stretchy, I need to fix that and make it not stretchy because it will stick that way. And when I say stick, I don't mean like permanently. It can be fixed, obviously, but this is the way you shape your wool knits. I think I'll put these arms down like this. My button band needs to line up. This is why I waited to actually put the buttons on until I had the button band lined up and dry. And I think I'll put the collar. The collar really needs to flip the other way. I did want to spread the collar out now that I think about it, because I remember it seemed a little small. So if I spread out this ribbing like this, it should hold that shape once it's dry. And that way it'll give us a nice swoopy collar that we weren't getting at first. Okay, there it is. It's right next to the little fireplace. And I have a fan, and I have found that, oh, it needs to be plugged in, that moving air is the greatest accelerator to drying your knits. Sure, you can have heat, but it seems like moving air makes it dry that much faster. Well, now that Jill's sweater is just about done, let's talk about Jody's sweater. We built this sweater based on what we learned with Jill's sweater. We wanted a more scrappy sweater. Every single square is different. I take that back. There are two that are the same, as my husband pointed out immediately when he looked at it. Some of the things to note, I think there are 21 different colors. That's not true. There's way more than 21. I think we used about 21 Wool of the Andes colors. So what I did at first is I was taking yarn from my scrap box and doing things like this. So this was maybe like sock yarn, and it wasn't as thick as the worsted yarn, so I was holding it double. And it looks great, but I was having trouble getting consistency in the square sizes. So I created this 4x4 or 3x3 square, which is the size of the squares that were on Jill's sweater, and we used all the measurements from Jill's sweater, so I knew that it was 12 across the top here and 6 across the bottom there, and these size squares. So many times I would cast on, let me find one that has different size, like this one. This was 2 sock yarns held together, and so I would cast on what I thought was the right number, and then I would knit several rows and realize it was too big or too small, and I'd have to pull it out and do it again. My suggestion, if you're just starting this project, is to go ahead and go to Knit Picks, order some Wool of the Andes, because it's $3.50 for a 50-gram ball, and pick out 25 or 30 different colors. It'll make your life a lot easier if all of the yarn is the same weight. Some of the construction things you may want to know. I tried to do every other square as a special square. So I did some characters I knew she liked. She actually requested this guy. Fun things I thought would be cool. Some stuff I just made up. Some stuff is about Harry Styles. So there's like a strawberry there. I think there's a watermelon somewhere. There's a watermelon. In the original TikTok cardigan, she really liked that there was a bunny in a pocket. So I made a cat in a pocket with a string. Down here, there's also a mouse in a pocket, and his tail is tied on there. I did decide to go easy on some of them. So like these are just fish buttons, but they're so cute. Oh my gosh, these cat buttons. It was so hard to decide which ones to use. I bought these at Walmart. Oh, another Harry Styles. Then I decided that I wanted to use felt hearts. So I bought some felt online. They were like 4x4 squares. Got a bajillion of them. And I put the same color or close to the same color on the knit yarn. Here's a yellow one. This is the front of the sweater, just as Jill's has a button band. This one will have a button band that goes down here. This is the back of the sweater. Typically the rules when you're knitting ribbing for waistbands and wristbands is that you would go down a needle size or 2 just to give that nice tight fit that you expect at the waist and wrist. I did not do that. I kept the same size. This is supposed to be a kind of a floopy and oversized sweater, so I wanted to maintain that look. I strongly suggest the method we used, which was to put Post-it notes up for each spot that we needed, and we took them down as we needed. Some of them are still into there. And then as we knit, we put them up on the wall, and it helped us track our progress. And I started keeping an update, and I was posting updates on Instagram. Oh, I've got 50 of 90 done. There are 90 squares total. The next step is to take this whole first row up here off and lay it on the bed and stitch it together. One more thing to note, if you follow me on Instagram, or on TikTok, you will have seen me blocking each one of these squares. I would wash them and lay them out on the wood stove out there, or the fireplace, not a wood stove. And that was just to make them lay flat. If you knit something like this, just straight knit stitch like this with no cables or moss stitch or anything, it will curl horribly and it won't lay out, similar to this one, which already is curling back again. And so you won't have any control over it and it'll be really difficult for you. When I made the ribbing for the wristbands, I just multiplied, so I knew that these were 18 stitches each. So 18 times 4 is whatever that is, and that's how many I cast on. I left the tails really long on these squares so that I would have something to whip stitch them together with. I'm not going to use the mattress stitch. I'm going to do a simple whip stitch, which I'll show you. Some of these squares on the arms are sideways when we hang them on the wall, because once they're on your arm and your arm is laying down or down by your side, that square will be right side up. This is the needle I'm using. It's a yarn needle. I think you can get them for about $1 at Walmart. Comes in a pack of 2 big plastic needles. Okay, I'm gonna take the first 2 squares, place them right sides together, just like this. I'm gonna thread this through here. And go through just about every stitch to hold them together. You don't have to pull super tight, but you might want to be kind of taut. So can you see? Picking up the entire stitch, hopefully. Maybe that's a better way to see. So you can see that last row of stitches. You can see it on the yellow better. I'm going to pick up that entire stitch right here, just like this. But I need to pick up the purple as well. I've made my first stitch. You can see it as it goes over. So now I'm just going to go around to the back and do it again. Grab those stitches. This is a simple whip stitch. There we go. And I'll continue all the way down the line. This is a good time to fix any size discrepancies. So like I said, not all of the blocks are going to be the same size because I use different types of yarn. So let's imagine you pick up 2 blocks like this. What you want to do is make sure they are the same size, like this. And this is because we can do this because it's wool. Again, I don't know that it'd be wise to do this with acrylic yarn, but with wool yarn you can absolutely do this, because during the blocking process all of these stitches are going to relax and they're going to want to stabilize and equalize. So that's what I've done here. I'm making sure that these 2 stay together. If I find that I have more stitches on one side than the other, I will skip stitches, maybe on this one, to try and line it up with that one. It's more important that they line up than that you catch every stitch. Knitting is very forgiving. When I get to the end, I'm just going to thread this through the last stitch here. any of the last stitches and make a knot however I can. Doesn't have to be pretty. This is the back side. And you won't be able to tell. It's so scrappy. There we go. Look at that.
Video.
Yep. What do you think about it?
It's nice.
Turn around. Oh, the collar got all floppy. It looks good.
Nice.
I'm so glad you came to visit today. If you want to see more fabulous knitting content, click here. And if you want to subscribe, click there. And we'll see you next time. Bye.